Good morning, Cosworth.
Cosworth has a long and proud tradition in Formula One, stretching back to the 1960s and 70s with the classic DFV engine. So when it returned to Formula One this year after a 3-year absence, with Virgin, Williams, Lotus and Hispania Racing, there were a lot of question marks about whether they could still build a state-of-the-art Formula One engine. I've come down to Northampton to find out.
Well, I think it started very promisingly for us. We've kind of ticked the most important boxes for us, which were to produce a durable engine, and over those first 4 Grand Prix we did 18,000 kilometres of running across our 4 teams and didn't suffer any mechanical failures. Now we've got it out there and running against a pretty formidable opposition. We've got a lot of data, a lot of feedback from the teams that we're now using to optimise the performance and move things along. I think what we are seeing is that the way we've mapped the engine in terms of concentrating on peak power, certain tracks or even certain corners on certain tracks, the drivability of the engine needs to be improved. So that means a driver is looking for more mid-range torque than top-end power. And those are the small changes that we now are having to look at, where a driver says to you, actually, I'm prepared to give up 5 or 10 brake horsepower top end if I've got more torque lower down. So this is the real detail work that now is going into the engine.
Perhaps one of the surprises of the season so far has been the relatively poor performance of Cosworth's leading team, Williams. So what have the problems been, and why are the results not coming through?
We're disappointed. I think the team are disappointed. We certainly joined with Williams to get to the sharp end of the grid. There are 2 things that I need to do for Cosworth. I need to run a profitable business, and for me to be a profitable business long term, we also need to be a successful business on the track, because we're not going to have that many Formula One customers in the future if Cosworth isn't providing an engine that is seen to be winning and seen to be helping them qualify well. So although we recognise we're only one part of the overall Williams package, we are an important part of it. And as with the new teams, I want Williams feeling that they have a terrific engine and a good product. So we hope we can turn their season around and help them to move forward.
Under the current regulations, each driver is only allowed to use 8 engines during the course of the 19-race season. And we're seeing some very different patterns in the way they choose to use them.
What's very interesting is you supply these teams with 16 engines, 8 engine lives per driver for the season. And not one of them uses the engines in the same way. They all have slight preferences how they want to use an engine. By and large, engines are being used for 2 full Grand Prix weekends and then being used for practice.
Now obviously these engines are homologated, they're sealed. What actually happens to them between races?
Well, I mean, the most basic thing is that once an engine is sealed by the FIA, so in other words, once it's committed to the pool of engines, it has seals put on it, and those seals are put on it such that you can't do any work to the internals. When an engine comes out of a car, for example, and the exhaust are taken off of it, there's a blanking plate put over the exhaust port so that that engine can't even be taken back here and put on a dyno. So we can't even dyno test an engine. It really is sealed for the duration of its life.
Behind the scenes at the moment in Formula One, there's a lot of discussion going on about the rules for 2013 and beyond, particularly with reference to engines. It looks like the engines of the future are going to be quite different from what we've had in the past, much more based around how much fuel they use than how big a capacity they have. This is an opportunity not only the sport can take, but one it cannot afford to miss out on if it wants to make itself relevant to the world of the future.
From an engine point of view, you'd have to say 2013 is a watershed. This is a moment in time when we who are involved in structuring how Formula One looks and feels and behaves to the outside world can use the change in engine regulations to bring something that is going to fascinate the general public, is going to motivate the car manufacturers to come back into the sport. We need to be at the centre of research and development on bringing new technology to bear, and that's the opportunity that 2013 represents. I think we need a sea change that is going to make sponsors and car manufacturers look at Formula One and say, actually, this is a sport which promotes efficiency in the way money is spent, and promotes efficient technology that's relevant to the general public and actually sends out a positive message. That's the opportunity that we have.
But this is not just the sport talking to itself. This is the sport listening to the manufacturers who are already there and ones who potentially might come in, as well as sponsors who want the sport to be much more relevant to modern society.